not running, but after us. And we were chanting Namaste Narasimhaya. And suddenly a trucker came, and I hope you can hear us all over there. Yes? Good. These are devotees mostly from Ontario and Quebec. And we get together every Tuesday to explore the Bhagavad Gita. And I just want to let you know, we have a full house. You had an idea of all the people here. There's about 63, I counted, here. And then a bunch of munchkins, wild kids. And it's really nice to be here. So I was asked just to let everybody know here about the book that we're promoting. And I just finished writing the book. It's called The Saffron Path. It came out in May. And it's doing pretty good. You can get it on Amazon, or you can see Prabhu. You don't go to Amazon, go through this guy. Forget about Amazon. All right, I'm sorry, that slipped out. And it's just about the walking experiences, and it'll inspire you in spiritual life. It's like a bridge book. It's not evangelical. It's not like knocking people over their head with Paya Gita, or you go to Kumbhipaka. You go to the flames of hell. So I guess you can all hear me okay over there? Jason, yeah? And Jamie? Okay, great. And we've been on the Zoom call for, a year and a half or two, something like that. So now we're happy that if you want to keep it up, we can plug you into one of our Zoom calls. Okay, so we like to start with the pranam mantras to Prabhupada, the 2 pranam mantras. We can do that together. And anybody who wants to cry during this whole program, they can go into the crying room. And if you want to laugh, you go to the laughing room, okay? And if you want to, it's funny, we're in America and everyone says, do you have to go to the restroom? No, I want to go to the washroom because I want to wash. I don't want to rest next to the toilet. It's really strange. We call it washroom in Canada. But the people who really have it down right, they say toilette because basically you want to go to the toilet. Right? Jamie, you're French Canadian, right? So you guys have got it, you're more living in reality than anybody else here. Okay, great. So let's do that together. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much. And then we'll go to page 1 of the introduction. Om Jnana Timirandasya. No. That's not the way we do it. Sorry to be overpowering and lording it over the material nature. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Jnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurun Militang Yena. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. Spiritual Master opened my eyes. With the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, so there might be some delay, which always happens on the Zoom. Okay, so Sudama Prabhu, you're our host. Can you show your lovely self before everyone? Wave or something like that? Okay, great. Tell us what chapter we're on and what text we're on.
Yes, Maharaj. We are on chapter 3, text 25.
25 it is. Okay. Anybody who has a book in front of them or a device, a cell phone, you can use it. 325. And I'll read this shloka with the Sanskrit and I'll do the translation. And we're going to ask somebody from over there to read the purport and then we'll take it from there. You know, there's 65 people here approximately, and we could probably get, if everyone had a chance to read, we go through the entire Bhagavad Gita. Okay, you've got about 25 years. Okay. All right. Sakta karmanya vidvangsho yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvangs tatha shaktas Chikyushur Loka Sangraham. Translation. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. Somebody over there, you can read the purport. Sudama, can you assign somebody, please?
How about talk to Jason?
Jason will read. Thank you, Jason. Go ahead.
Varna Sankara is unwanted population.
Oh, wait a minute. We're on 325.
Not 324. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness and a person not in Krishna consciousness are differentiated by different desires. A Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not conducive to development of Krishna consciousness. He may even act exactly like the ignorant person who is too much attached to material activities. One is engaged in such activities for the satisfaction of sense gratification, whereas the other is engaged for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is required to show the people how to act and how to engage the results of action for the purpose of Krishna consciousness.
Great. And what I would really like to do, I want to go to the next verse and the next purport because they're so co-related, okay? And so I'll go through this. Nabudi Bedam Janayed Ajnana Karma Sanginam Joshayat Sarva Karmani Vidvan Yukta Samacharan so as not to disturb the minds of ignorant people attached to the fruit of results of prescribed duties. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So what we can do, we can ask, somebody from here in Columbus to read half of the purport, and then we can go back over there. Where you are, Sudama, you can read the second half. How's that? We just want to share. So somebody like to start? Okay. Whoa! Wow. I hope you can be heard, because they have to hear as well.
Sarve aham eva vedya. That is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifices, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all direction for material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to that end. But through fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by the Vedic rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. I just want to catch you in time before you. Okay, you know how it is. So now let's get the second half of the purport here.
Battery is low.
Krishna consciousness serve others in their activities. showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. Learn that the Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person works not to behave.
Oh, good.
Is not to be disturbed with this activity. A slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formula. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals, because by
Battery is low.
one has all the
Battery is low.
one would otherwise derive from following.
Battery is low.
You stand up, that other one, that you system.
Sorry about that. We apologize. Okay, so because by direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties. Okay, thank you very
Battery
much.
is low.
Can we stop that lady from talking?
Battery is low.
Can we stop that?
Okay. Are we okay? Okay, so let's begin. Let's do the best we can here. Okay, I chose to put these two shlokas together because they're basically similar in their message, and that's what Krishna does a lot of times. He pulls some shlokas together. Shlokas means verses, and they follow a similar theme. So this is chapters entitled Karma Yoga. And does everybody know what yoga means? Okay, I'm not going to let you answer it, but I'll answer it myself because I know you know. Yoga means to link up with God, to unite with God, reunite, to get connected again. Connectivity, those common words now, right? And karma means by your actions. How are you getting to God? It's simply like that. So when we are talking about ignorant people who are involved in some kind of fruitive results, we're talking about, say, like demigod worship. We're talking about rites and rituals that are kind of like substandard to bhakti. And there's a whole section in the Bhagavad Gita that speak about, let's say, we call it fruitive results, and also about the flowery language of the Vedas. Those are the two terms that Prabhupada uses here. He talks about fruitive activities and flowery words. It means the same. And what that means, it means you're talking about doing some rituals for temporary purposes, or ulterior purposes. Like, say, some people might go to the goddess Saraswati. Oh, please help me pass my exams. The goddess of learning. Or people may go to worship the sun god. I've got some chronic disease, so they go to the sun god for healing and so on. Or they may go to Ganesh. I understand you. I can make some money. Okay, so what is really being said here is you don't want to discourage people on the path, but you may put in a good word for Krishna, going to him directly. After all, Krishna awards us with moksha, liberation, stopping the cycle of birth and death, and that benefit you don't get from the other gods and goddesses, right? So we go to Krishna directly via a medium, like the media spiritual master, and acharyas, a whole school of great pundits, acharyas we call them. So the verse is encouraging, both of these verses. It's saying, don't disturb people who are kind of ignorant, that aren't there yet. We sometimes expect people to just surrender to Krishna. That's all it is. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes with your life partner, you might be in the fast lane, they're in the slow lane, and you try to get on their case. And it's better not to give them a hard time, but to encourage them by your own good behavior, become an improved person. Does that make sense? You know, you don't need to give somebody a difficult time. Do not disrupt their channel, you can say, but encourage them in the spirit of bhakti. Okay, I'll tell you a fun story. Well, it's a real story. It happened to me on my third walk across Canada, and I was in Moose Country. And I met a guy, he pulled over, he said, "Excuse me, weren't you on this road 9 years ago?" I said, "You're absolutely right. It was a beautiful sunny day, and you're absolutely right. So what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm walking across Canada to promote the walking culture, pilgrimage, you know, get more in touch with yourself, all that good stuff, you know, go for a healing." And we got to talking, and he was a real friendly guy. I said, "Well," and I asked him, "What do you do?" "Well, I hunt moose." I said, "Oh, really? Okay. Well, I won't hold it against you." I said, "Oh, I really appreciate that." Now, the guy was so warm and friendly. He was nice. He was a lot more sweet than some vegan fanatics that I know. He was just so nice, you know. And we ended up on such a nice note. And I said, "Listen, I won't hold it against you, you know. Maybe one day you'll, you know, cut out, reduce, and so on like that, and I'll still love you. I love you now." Anyways, we ended on such a nice note. And I said, "Listen, it was such a pleasure meeting you. You're a super nice guy, and I hope you have the best day in your life today." I said, "Well, thanks." So then he drove up, and then he did a U-turn. He came back. "You know, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Thank you," you know? And so I was just encouraging him. And you know, like sometimes people will criticize, like you might catch people on the bhakti path will say that, "Oh, those people, those meat eaters, those moose hunters, those deer hunters." Because some of our native people did that to keep alive, especially in the winter. By the way, when the Europeans first came, landed in Plymouth Rock, and that's in Virginia, right on the East Coast. And they didn't know how to survive the harsh winter. It was harsh to them. So the native people were so nice and kind. They showed them, "We're going to give you some squash. We're going to give you this and that. We're going to give you some fish, some deer, and all these things, and berries and things of that nature." They offered all kinds of food to show them, this is what you can eat. This is how you survive in this climate. You know, how nice of them, right? We all figure that was sweet of them. How did we treat them? Not like a real slap in the face, worse than that. Okay, so, and in their diet, there was a lot of vegetarian. They corn and beans and squash. That was a big part of their diet in this part of the country, you know. So it was very nice. Now, we know in native culture that when they would hunt an animal, they would oftentimes do it in a meditative way. And after they would shoot with an arrow, they'll offer a prayer to the spirit in the body, and they say, "I'm sorry what I've done, but I'm offering you to the Great Spirit." You know, so this was very devotional, right? So that is there's a lot more bhakti in that approach than when you go to the supermarket or the grocery store. Grocery store must be another word for gross store. Whereas everything's gross, you know, the section of the store where they have all kinds of meat parts and all nice cut slabs. There's nobody there that offers it to God, unless if you're a Jewish person and you kosher everything, or you're an Islamic person and you halal it, you know. But we, in our tradition, we would never offer that. But at least people are on the track. God is giving, give it back to God. That's a devotional gesture. So in our endeavors to meet people, when we do book distribution or something, whether it's in the streets of Toronto or Owen Sound or Barrie, Ontario, or, you know, in Columbus, we meet some people who have got some bad habits. but as long as they're friendly and cheerful, and they might take a little prasad from your hand, which is your intention, then you are just encouraging. Hey, what is this? Oh, it's an Indian sweet. Hey, man, I really like that. When I was in Toledo, Ohio, and I was walking over the interstate highway on a bridge, there were two African American fellows. They were eating popcorn, and we came towards each other, right in the middle of the bridge, and they say. And the one fellow says, "Hey man, are you a monk?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am. Can you teach me how to fight?" Because Hollywood has always portrayed monks, to be martial artists. And I said, "Well, in our tradition, we teach gentleness, first. So better, instead of being confrontational, try to talk to people in an encouraging way, in a devotional way. Try to use wisdom first, such as, I'm not this body, and you're not that body. We're spirits, We're meant to be united like brothers. We don't need to fight." And then, so I was explaining to the two guys that first you use wisdom, and if that fails, then you use a weapon. One of the two W's. Wisdom first, weapons after, okay, if it fails. And then the guy says, "Hey man, that's so cool." Yeah. So this is the thing, and part of the wisdom of Krishna is that don't put people down. Don't oppress. Don't suppress. Just and don't aggress. Just encourage people in the spirit of bhakti. If somebody's an optimist, they're optimistic about life, encourage them to be optimistic simply about Krishna, and it might take a little time to get there. It takes time, Time is on our side. Krishna says at least in 4 places in the Gita, "I am time." Do we ever think about God in the form of time? We think about God in the form of prasadam, yes. We just had some lovely prasadam, by the way. And that prasadam is Krishna, right? The book is Krishna. You don't eat it. You just read it, right? And, let's say, what else? The deity is Krishna. And you can say the universe is Krishna. The elements are Krishna. Everything. And what about time? We don't think about time. I want to applaud Sudama for being on time every week. That at 7:30 he's there, without a doubt. I'm the one that's late sometimes. So I'm guilty, and you can whip my lash me. Everyone, go ahead. Okay, so time is Krishna. Krishna is time. So I noticed that last night when we were at the university, there are 2 groups of students that were there. The one group of students, they came on time. They were interested in the story, maybe interested in the cooking demo and so on. But there's some students that know very well when the prasadam is on. And that is a different kind, the second kind of students, right? And most of them were international students. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So Krishna is time, and you do things timely, Krishna really works to your advantage, like time management. The common question is, I don't have time. I've got a dozen kids, and I have to take Pinky to the ballet dance, and I have to take Ravi over to the hockey game, and I don't have time to chant or whatever like that. But I would just say like this, really, you've got to plug in to Krishna, who's the time factor. And if you honor him as time, and you make a little adjustment in your lifestyle, just go to bed a little earlier, get up earlier, start the day with H2O, water, your best soap, your best essence, flower essence, whatever it is. No shower, body. And then you go for chanting. Oh, you put on your clothes, of course. You can't be one of those Naga Babas from India that come in the the Kumbh Mela. They do a parade. All the Naga Babas. That is guys who wear for their clothes the elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and a lot of each one of those. Okay, so and then you start chanting japa. You start the day with purifying your soul and your heart with the mantras. And when you start the day right, you'll be amazed how much Krishna will help you slot time in to get a lot of things done, and sometimes a little bit of multitasking, because it's understood that when you get a liberated state, after you leave this body and you're in a pure state, you may get the body of like Vishnu, 4 arms. Then you could do more multitasking. So you might as well start now in this life and get prepared for the multitasking. I've learned that in living in the temple for almost 50 years now, because I joined in 73, that there's always multitasking that goes on. And temple life is so interesting, there's never a dull moment. If you think that being in a household with the little kids screaming and singing and dancing and doing cute stuff is fun, try living in a temple where puja has to go on, cooking has to go on, where interesting characters come in, sometimes in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, ringing your doorbell, I want something to eat. And they're drunk and all that. So there's never a dull moment in Krishna consciousness. It's really just a lot of fun, So I'd just like to say that it doesn't matter what background somebody's coming from. You just encourage them in bhakti. That's all you have to do. That you just want to encourage. I went to one city, that's Gary, Indiana. It's just before Chicago. It's quite a rundown town. And they call it Steel Town. And I saw so many people walking on the streets. One thing I said, don't see too many pedestrians anymore. Everyone's in a car. But Gary, Indiana had a lot of people walking on the streets. And I was kind of curious why that was. And so I saw outside a barber shop, there was a fellow by the name of Tom or Don, I can't remember. And I shook his hands. And I asked him, how are you? I'm Bhaktimarga Swami. I'm walking across the country. I got midway here. And he goes, oh, wow, that's really something. Wow. And I was just curious. I said, why is there so many people walking on the streets in Gary, Indiana? He said, well, if you're on an overdose, you ain't gonna get into a car and start driving around. You know what I mean? So it was really kind of a sad statement or revelation, but it's true, Some people are, a little downtrodden, down and out, but with Don, I was able to just give a little Krishna consciousness, because he looked a little down and out also. And just want to leave them with a good taste. That's all you want to do. You want to encourage people. And the whole culture of Chaitanya is about exclusivity. Include people. Don't be exclusive. What you don't want to do is follow the caste Brahmins or the Smarta Brahmins in India who have their nose up in the air, and we monopolize Dharma. That's true. India lost a lot of, let's say, adherents or congregants because priests, at least some, not all, I'm just saying, but many felt that we have a monopoly to Shastra, we have a monopoly to the Murtis, and you're untouchable, so we don't want to have anything, don't even look at me. That kind of attitude really discouraged millions of people. And then people thought, well, I'll just go to another religion then, if you don't want to accept me. So those kind of individuals were very discouraging to people, and we don't want to discourage, we want to encourage. So sometimes, like in the word encourage, there's courage. Sometimes it takes a little courage to go to people, to go to the public, or to welcome some people, like people that are not of your background, you know. I don't know how to deal with them, you know. But, you know, I don't even understand their language, you know. But all you have to do is show some warmth and love, and everybody understands that language, isn't it? Kindness. Everybody understands kindness. Like when the first Europeans came, I think they were the Puritans, and our native people were kind to them. They were so kind to them. And so they understood that. But after a while, they got a little hard-hearted. They thought, we are better than you. There's so many of us. Get out. And a lot of those people, unfortunately, were put onto what they call the Trail of Tears. It says, you just go west. Get out of here. You're a nuisance. You don't work for us, for our system, so just go. You are, whatever we build, you try to attack. And of course, it was their land, and there were really raw deals made with the native people. They felt cheated, and they were. So, anyways, it's all about encouragement. Now, the biggest encourager that I have ever known in my life is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, he knew the art of how to be nice. And that was one word that he constantly used. Nice. Everything should be done nice. He always did it with a little bit of this. Everything should be done nice, you know? And even in dealing with people, be nice, you know? And it doesn't matter who they are. Everyone should be given a chance. From chapter 9, Manghi Paritavya Pasaritya, Yepi Supapayonaya, Striyo Vashistatashitras, Tepi Yandi Parangati. That is a line all about inclusiveness. That's a beautiful shloka, and so are these last two. Encourage, don't discourage. You know, everyone has a chance to reach the supreme destination. So that was Prabhupada's attitude. And when he came to the West first, he came to Boston first to spend a few hours there, and then his boat, the Jaladuta, went further on into the harbor in New York, and then he saw Mataji like this, Lakshmi Devi, whatever, the Statue of Liberty, and then he met with all the people. He spent 1 month in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he said something very interesting to he was not intimidating. He spent time with the Agarwals. Some of you know the story, right? The Agarwals. I personally met Sally Agarwal. She was married to an Indian chap, Gopal Agarwal, and he's since passed away. But he's not doing well. And so Prabhupada said to the journalists at the Butler Eagle, the newspaper, he said, if Americans paid more attention to their religion, to their spiritual life, he said, spiritual life, they would be much happier. You know? And on that note, and the way he delivered Krishna consciousness, it was not like fire and brimstone. It's not like go to hell if you don't follow this. You know? It was with the soft touch. It was done all with love. And that he administered from the beginning, from the time that he's set on American soil until the end. You know, his last effort, he was not well. That's in 1977. He wanted to come to Gitanagari and spend time on the farm. Well, he only made it as far as the UK, and his condition got worsened, and then he had to go back to India, and he passed away in Vrindavan, the place where things in a way started for him. So always he was kind, he was so encouraging. And actually when he came to Toronto in 1975 first, we were in a crammed building. Guru Bahan remembers this. There were about 40 people living in a rented house. 40. 40. Not 14, 40. We were like sardines in a can. And if you rolled over at night, you would be on top of somebody. It was wall to wall, monks and nuns. You know, the guys were on the top floor, ladies were on the second floor. And on the main floor, there was like about 10 bodyguards, you know, sleeping. And then we had one person who was kind of like the local, troll, I don't know what you would call him. He would be in the basement, he'd stay in the basement. So Prabhupada, heard that we needed a new place. So then we looked at a new place. It was a church. It was a Protestant building in a really good location downtown. And so he prayed to Krishna for us to have that, and we got the building. So now we have a big building, and at this first Sunday feast, when it was advertised, the Hare Krishna Guru is coming. We had a lot of new immigrants coming from India, and they all filled up the place real fast. And Prabhupada was very encouraged. It was the first time he saw that, and he really encouraged. He said, I want you folks, meaning the immigrants from India, to work with these boys and girls. He's talking about the Canadian American boys and girls, to help to work with each other. And that's the way it's supposed to work. India was at that time a poor nation, and it was behind. I don't want to get into the history why it was like that. But he saw that, North America had wealth, and he said, let the East and the West combine. The wisdom of India, the natural resources and wealth of the West, combine it together, and you have a perfect marriage, So that's what we have to be thinking about, We have to be thinking about what we can do for our American and Canadian boys and girls and get them on track as well. And also with our fellow, folks from the land of Bharat, Our job is to do good works. Para upakara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, do good work, the best work, by encouraging people to go on the spiritual path. India has got a history of spirituality, and so does North America. Again, I go back to our native people. They had a strong sense of spirituality. So there's a parallel here, We just have to kind of work together. And that's the only thing. I'm sorry if I rattled on. Usually we do a little more interactive stuff, But how are you going to interact with 1,000 people in this house? How are you going to do it? So, I can't think of a better theme than encouragement and a positive outlook, positive thinking, which Prabhupada was. And I've said this before to our group. There's only two ways to be in life. That is, be upbeat or beat up. That's all. And Prabhupada was always upbeat, positive, optimistic, not pejorative, not negative, not cynical. If you find somebody cynical and they're even wearing a dhoti and tilak or wearing a sari and with a bindi dot and they're cynical, they're not being devotional. They're not part of the culture. They're part of the outside framework, And so Vaishnavas or devotees of Krishna are optimists. Yes, there are difficulties. We have difficulties. Yes, we have some issues. We have domestic issues. We do. We do in our community, like anywhere else. We have domestic issues. But our culture's kind of, don't say, hush, 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 hush. Close the door, put the blinds down. But we have problems, like anywhere else. We have issues. And where there are issues, there will be tissues. And, but you have to, always remember Krishna's the theme. That's what Prabhupada's highlighting here. Remember, it's Krishna, that's where we're trying to go. And we lose sight of that sometimes. We have to remember everyone's Krishna. My wife is Krishna's, not yours, sorry. She doesn't belong to you. Sorry, she's your partner or husband. It doesn't belong to you. Sorry. Your kids don't belong to you. He says, what? No, they don't belong to you. They belong to Krishna. Your house, we're in a new house right here with a nice couple, and they are, where are they?
Locations.
Oh, they're so, okay. What is your name, Mataji?
Shweta.
Shweta and your
Rakesh.
Rakesh. Okay. And they're wonderful people. They smile like anything. And but they just moved into a new house, but it's not your house. I'm sorry to say that. And if you have 1 or 2 cars, how many cars do you have?
Just one.
Oh, really? Just one? Oh, you're like from the 50s. And but it's not your car. Sorry, it's not your car. Just like the deer come, they eat grass on your front lawn, and then they go. So they're not yours because you can't own them. You know. So like that, everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of God. As long as you remember that, you're just like a custodian, or you're what's the other word that I want to see? You're a steward. You are a guardian. You're an angel. Whatever. What else? Caretaker, yeah. And that's it. Nothing more, you know. You're an instrument, by the way. Nimitam Baba Savya Sachin. Krishna tells Arjuna, you're an instrument in the fight. That's what you are. You're an instrument. And Savya Sachin means you use an instrument. And St. Francis of Assisi said, be an instrument of thy peace. Be an instrument of peace. Create peace. Be optimistic. And you be the instrument. You make it happen. Don't expect everyone else to do it. You make it happen. And how do you make it happen? By being lovely, by being kind, by being loving, right? And encouraging, and so on. Everyone in spirituality, in Krishna consciousness. So what we have to do is figure out how to do that with our neighbors and as much as and our friends and our people. How do we do that? How do we bring Krishna consciousness and have it land on the laps of our local people? Well, one way is just good behavior. You say, I want stability in my life. I like some of those things those people are doing across the street, and I smell their incense once in a while, and I understand they have some really special vegetarian food, and maybe I'll just go over there and make friends with them and pick up on some of their good habits, right? So this is one way, just good behavior. Show not just a good front, but a good behind. Does that make sense? Have a good front and a good behind. Everything is good. Your front, your behind, your sides. Everything is good. Because you're using it all in Krishna's service, right? Everything you're doing in His service, because this body, we are a machine made of the material energy, that is referring to the body. We are within this machine, actually, and it's not our machine, once again. So those are some of the points we want to add, and Prabhupada also puts in the purport here, if you could, no, not in the purport, but look at your verse, again, 26, for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. It's incremental. You don't push people too hard. You'll find that some of you have are young families in that category. Some are beyond that. Some of you have teenagers. Some are beyond teenagers. And sometimes we've made mistakes. We try to push our kids too hard. Why aren't you chanting 6 rounds? Or why aren't you going to the temple? And they're already teenagers and they're somewhat slightly hopeless. I'm just joking. No, but you just can't oppress people. You just only encourage them in love of the spiritual path. That's what works best. I'm looking at Atreya, Hannah. Atreya, what do you find works for your baby or babies? Do you have 1, 2? 1? Okay. 2? Okay. And I'm sure, Atreya, you got a good head on your shoulders. You know that it takes love and kindness and show everyone how Krishna's fun and that he's charming, and that's our idea of God. Our idea of God is not somebody up in the sky he's old with a big beard that goes down to your feet, and he's cursing you. If you do not, I will curse you. I will thunder, lightning. You know, it's not like that. Our God is a loving God, and Prabhupada used to say, "Our God." We have such a nice God, and that is, Krishna is fun, loving, all attractive on all fronts, all areas. We can say that about Krishna. So gradual development, Shanai Shanai, means Krishna uses that term in the Gita. He says slowly, gradually, you know, like that. And sometimes people freak out a little bit. Oh, I'm chanting so much. I'm chanting every day, but I'm not getting any peace of mind. My mind is all over the place. Maharaj, how do you do it? And then Krishna says two things. You know what he says? He says it in Sanskrit, and I'll just give it to you in English. He basically says two things you have to do. And that is continue the practice. Continue. And the second thing he says, do it in a detached spirit. Okay? So that calls for incremental exercise. Okay? And also there's an English term. It came from the British, I think, during the Second World War. Keep calm and carry on. Keep calm and carry on. Right? So don't flip, don't freak. Don't do any of one of the two Fs, freak or flip. Simply, you know, carry on with your service and be executed in a detached frame of mind, and good results will come. That's all, you know. So you just have to be a little patient. After all, we are patients. How many people are sick here? We're all sick. Nothing to do with pandemic. We're all sick on some level, right? We've got a short circuit. We got something like that. We get angry when we shouldn't be angry. We get lusty when we get greedy, kam, karod, lobh, etc. You know, we're all sick in a way. You know, we're psychos and sickos. You know, on some level. And the way that you overcome this is you're going to be patient. You know, the cure, which is chanting and having good, cultivating warm relationships with each other, is something that has to be administered in a nice, cool, calm, and collected way, right? And then you'll have some success, right? So be patient with others, and also to some degree with yourself. If you want to be hard on someone, be hard on yourself. Pick on somebody your own size, right? Be soft on others and hard on yourself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, be hard like a thunderbolt, but be soft like a rose. Right? Okay, so rose, thunderbolt, okay. And thunderbolt, me, rose, everybody else. Everyone else is. Get the top part of the rose, by the way, because if you go down the stem, oh my God, I'm bleeding. Thorns, right? Okay. So anyways, what time are we at right now here? 8:25. So Sudama, I was just wondering, Sudama, would you like to help us through with our crew here and also the devotees in Columbus? Let's do some takeaway. Is that okay? That way we get a little interactiveness. And I'm sorry, I just took the floor. I didn't have much chance to have us interact in our usual way, but that's okay.
It's wonderful that you have so many guests there, Maharaj. It's great to feel connected, you know, to everyone right there in Ohio. Thank you.
Yes, Ohio. Okay. You know, and I'm just a rascal, or if not a hoser, for trying to hog the show here. Prabhus, do you know, you're all Canadians over there, do you know what hoser means, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here in America, they don't know what hoser means, right? He usually refers to an uncultured person, so that's me. So because it's a Canadian term, hoser. Okay, so you're learning something every day, something new. Okay, why don't we just take? Let's get some takeaways here. Is there anybody who, whatever you heard or observed, that sort of rang true for you? Can you spell it out to us? Please don't give us a big speech for 30 minutes. Just all I want is just something short and sweet. That's all. That's all. So we'll start with Columbus. Okay, Sri Radha, right? Okay.
Being inclusive. Our movement is all about being inclusive.
Okay. Sri Radha, she's saying, be inclusive. That's what our movement is all about. And that's the only way we're going to move. If you're not inclusive, we're not going to move. We're no longer a movement. We're like a rock that doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so now we'll ask one of you devotees over there, tell us a little bit about a takeaway that you want to, honor.
Mine is just one word. Encouragement.
Encouragement. Is that Nandini?
Yes. Hello.
I'm Nandini. Haribol. Let's say hello to Nandini. You're a third generation, aren't you?
Yep.
Woo! Third generation devotee. Great. Encouragement. Great. How about, she's up there too. You're here and there. My God. Okay. Yes, for Krishna's mother.
Yeah, keep calm and keep moving.
Keep calm, carry on.
Carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. Right. Words from God in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, okay. How about over there in Owen Sound region, Ontario? Yes, Jason?
Mine is time is Krishna and Krishna is time.
Very good. Let's all remember that. So everyone here came on time because the prasadam was early. Yes. Thanks, Jason. That was brilliant. Somebody else here? Prabhu over there. What's your name, Prabhu?
Sukadeva Nandadas.
Sukadeva
Anandadas.
Sukadeva Nandadas. Yes. Well, this handsome man has something to say.
So, quickly, you mentioned something about being upbeat and not get beat up.
Yes, yes.
And wherever there is issue, there is a tissue, right?
Oh yeah, where there's an issue, there's a tissue. Another be, if you're beat up, then or someone's beaten up, then there will be tissues, something like that, right? So be upbeat, like Prabhupada was. Okay, is somebody else from this side here? Anybody from Barrie want to say something? Raji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Yeah. So for me, it's be an instrument of peace.
Be an instrument of peace. Thank you so much. Prabhu Krishna Gata, he's from Mauritius, delicious Mauritius. Do you have pawpaw fruit over there? Hey, Garuda Bahan, they have this fruit, it's part of the Carolinian forest. And it probably grows, it grows in southern Ontario as well. And it looks a little bit like a green mango. And if you cut it, it tastes like mango, banana, and papaya together. And it grows wild. You can forage it. Have you ever heard of that before?
Never heard of it.
Look it up, paw, P-A-W, P-A-W. Okay. All right. Start foraging. Okay. Any other takeaways from our group here? Yes, Mataji. Your name is Juhi. Juhi has this to say. She wants to say something.
Just be nice to others always, like Srila Prabhupada.
Be nice to others like Prabhupada always was. Yes. So simple and so right. So right. We've got another person with their hands up.
Yeah.
You're in the shadows. So.
Yeah, couple things stuck with me. I wrote it down because I have tendency to forget. But don't suppress, oppress, or aggress.
Okay. Don't suppress, aggress, and
Aggress.
suppress. Oppress, suppress, and what?
Aggress.
Everybody is so spiritual. And what is your name?
Janish.
Janish. Thank you, Janish. Do we have anybody else that wants to say something? And you, Sudama, you just have to get me to stop at the right time because I might be.
Oh, please carry on.
Okay. So anybody else?
Let me make a comment. The apples are the reason, Maharaj. It's one of the best wild apple seasons I've seen in years.
Well, I've got to get up there.
They are absolutely deliciously big this year for some reason.
Remember whenever it was my birthday, you and I and someone else, we go to the abandoned farm fields and we go to check out all the sort of forgotten heirloom apples. Remember that?
Yeah.
And each one tastes so good, and we ate so many apples and we never got diarrhea. It was amazing. That's such a great gift. Yes. Okay. And then I'll read to you from this book. I put in not so many poems, but I did put in there one to do with Prabhupada. Okay. It's short. It's really short. Okay. Here we go. Leaving home behind, a new comfort to find. It was in 1965, the ocean you did survive. On ship with beads and books, there were stares and looks. When you landed upon the shore and made that big score in the city of fashion, of darkness and passion. There was snow and cold, but you were so bold. There was noise and heat. You said no to defeat. From the above description, I learned a great conviction, and going step by step, a stride to be kept. For around every bend, there's definitely a friend, a touch of magic, making life less tragic. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So, Prabhus, we'll see you next week at the same time on Tuesday night. And be good until then. Or else. Panchakalpatarubhyasya Vipasyandevacha Patitanam Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, one quick announcement. Maharaj is turning 70 in a couple of weeks, October 5th. So we got
So you can come to the party.
Party. Is that a walking party?
We're gonna have a party in Brampton, actually, somewhere.
Brampton. Okay. Kijai.
Easier for you guys, right? Do you want to come?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll get someone to just. Can you divinely nag me, Sudama, and or Nitai, either of you guys, and just let me know. I'll get you the address because I don't even know where it is. I might get lost.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Maybe you can stay. Yes, and maybe there's some families that allow you to stay overnight. Yeah. Very well. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
So we do these classes, with this group over there, and then we do a Zoom class with people in Canada on the very far East Coast, and then alternate it with the far west coast. And then we have a group of people from Florida, they based from Florida, you know them, Anantasheshan, Vaishnavi, and we do that every Thursday from 5 to 6. That might be a good time when any of you want to plug in if you want. Okay. Oh my God, this is warm. Yeah, sure. Okay.
So my question was, how should our attitude be to devotees or leaders or teachers who are being smarta brahmana on us? Like being do this, do that. Should we keep calm and carry on? Or should we communicate to them that we are not liking it?
Yes, sometimes it's good to have a third party person there to help you with that. Say if the person is somewhat senior, it's really hard to convey a message. So maybe a senior person can chat with them, and you go that route, and that's one approach. If you're kind of like firm and strong, you can maybe speak directly and try to reason. I really need to have a heart-to-heart with you, and then perhaps you can take that approach. And if they have any sense of integrity, they'll be able to listen. Listening is like the first aspect, first of the 9 devotional practices. Hearing, so that has to be done sometimes, and if it gets too difficult, just have your husband nearby. I mean, we're just talking about practical. So we should be able to conduct some kind of ishtagoshti sometimes, speaking frankly and openly and so on. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
What if the husband is facing that?
Then you are the support behind him, and you have to be there for him.
Thank you.
And we just came from the mantra retreat at Krishna Smaran. You remember there? And after one class, one lady, she's Purnamasi.
Yes.
She said, you know how she is. She's a very genuine person. I said, well, because a lot of it is how husbands or men should be. That the weekend was kind of like that, or reinforce the good in them. And she put up her hand and said, well, we ladies, we have to protect our husbands. So there you go. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, he's just holding the camera. It's a fairly new house, and I think it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. So about being nice and loving to others, when we meet new people, it is very easy to express that love and care.
That's true.
Right? But within the close families, within a community, it is very natural for us to expect some kind of a reciprocation.
Right.
So how do we develop that mood of detachment, whether the other person reciprocates or not, but still be loving, caring, and doing whatever is necessary?
You can't go wrong with being loving and caring. That's all I can say. And sometimes if you don't get reciprocation, you may justify it somehow by saying, maybe I deserve it. And maybe I wasn't nice to that soul in the past life. That Prabhupada even, had that rationale once, and he presented it to us like that. And look, it's not always like your kids that are going to listen to you, but it's going to be, other people's kids that may listen to you, right? Because familiarity has set in, and familiarity can do some damage. That's why it's hard for a parent to be the teacher of their kids. So they can't be the school teacher at least. They already were a teacher for the first 5 years. By that time, the kid is ready for, give me a change, God. Some people do homeschooling, and I don't know how you do it, but does that make sense? And that helps. I'm just trying to be a little bit practical. Any other questions?
Raj, I have a
Yes.
You have traveled across the country and met several devotional communities.
Yes.
You mentioned about the wisdom of the East and the wealth of the West. what have you seen in communities that stands out that do that well?
That do it fairly well.
The qualities of the people, or what comes across
Quality of the people, like you're talking about in America.
in America?
In America.
Devotional communities that have
I
combined
never,
both.
well, you see, I was walking and never stayed here long enough to really know. But, you know, what stands out? What stands out is that every place is unique. That I would say. Every household is different, you know. The Patels and the Sharmas have their own culture, different from each other, distinct. And I think that's what's kind of nice, you know. What kind of sticks out in my mind, I've moved up to Philadelphia, Washington. We also went up to Minneapolis. It was not on my route, but we drove 5 or 6 hours north to be there for a weekend program. And, you know, everyone's nice because you're a Swami, right? And that's the other thing, you know, if you're a Swami, saffron them, you know. But if you're kind of like an ordinary person, And what if the Swami is a rascal or a hoser? You know? Then what are you going to do? You know, right? We're a little bit blind. We should see everybody as a Swami. We should see everybody like God coming to your door. It should be like that. I mean, that's the best attitude. And what stands out, again, you say, everyone was kind to me, you know, wherever I went, and with my support people. That's all I can say. I just don't. There wasn't anything that really sticks out. Just everyone demonstrated kindness. They fed us. In fact, when I walked across the U.S., we didn't have to camp out once. Not even set up a tent. Not once. Of course, we didn't have one. We depended largely on the temples, the devotees, you know, whether from the north or the south, and we stayed in a lot of Patel motels, you know, and they were very kind, and you know how they are. People are kind. If you run a motel and Swamiji, you stay with us, and we cook for you too, right? And that's the mood. That's the spirit. It's kindness, and it's bred into the culture, you know. Hopefully we can pass it on to our youngsters, and they won't become too traumatized by the sort of atheism of the this higher schools, you know, which is quite the tendency. You know. Yes, Prabhu.
So sometimes Prabhupada was hard. Like somebody sent me a clip recently and said, "Get up, rascal, wake up, don't lose the opportunity." That's like in the morning, you know, they said you should play this tape over and over again.
Oh yeah.
Get up, rascal, Prabhupada was hard sometimes.
You like that word?
Huh?
You like that word?
And sometimes Prabhupada was nice. Sometimes he would, in his lectures also, he was like very strongly preaching.
Yeah.
So it may come like as if he's not. He's
not caring.
He's caring, but in a different way. Like
yes,
by being hard, he's being caring.
Well, you're a family man, right? So when it comes to your kids, you know, you go to I said, stop that. So it's the same thing. It's love, right? It's kindness. But sometimes you have to correct, you know. They stand to be
in our movement also we see different kinds of preachers with different moods.
Oh yeah, some are scary. Some of the ones you talk, is that Hitler's brother? Or you know, some are, yeah, and some have a different approach. Some are real serious, stern, right? And then you have the other types, right? Which one do you prefer? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think that's natural. And well, that's how Prabhupada was with us. when he saw that correction was needed, he would actually, go for it. And where he would always compliment people, he would encourage like anything. But sometimes he would have to correct. So that meant taking a stern situation. He'd get heavy on some of the boys. It was very hard for them when we built the Juhu temple and the Vrindavan temple, because these were kind of inexperienced. They were Americans, Europeans, running the show. And they were dealing with shrewd business people, involved in construction. And things didn't always, it was very hard for them to deal with this kind of, this kind of sly business people, right? And Prabhupada didn't want anyone to be cheated, and says, why is the temple not open, Why is it dragging on? And so some of the devotees would say, Prabhupada, it's very hard, So he'd be understanding. Yeah. So he definitely demonstrated different moods, but always Krishna was in his mind.
Like same thing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was very hard on Chota Haridas.
Yes, he was very much. Yeah.
And so it was like, and with some others like Gopal Chapala and those.
Yes, that's true. And for the most part, most of them who got treated like that deserved it. Somebody might argue about Chota Haridas. They might consider it's a little bit severe, but he was thinking largely about everyone else, that you have to be not frivolous or not casual, or you have to be careful what you do. Yes,
a follow-up question on that one. So if and when you are dealing with such stern devotees who might be very senior in the movement also, what should be our mood, like I as a devotee? How should I think about and
when somebody's being a little hard on you, and they're
like in general, like
in
you
general.
talked about personalities, right? They're just personalities. It's not about being good or bad. They're just personalities. So because it's easy to kind of, like you said, interact with people who are easygoing, but then if somebody's a little hard with everything, and again.
Yeah, well, I think that we need some hardness too.
Yeah.
You have to keep that in mind, that in order to move things along, somebody has to be a little pusher, somebody has to be a little bit like, we got to get this done, and so don't take personal offense. Just like, okay, it seems to be the will of the Lord. Let's get it done, And it's always good to take a humble position, but not to get too personal about it, See, maybe it's the will of the Lord. Let's go ahead with it, And it's always a great opportunity sometimes to talk, So sometimes you come a little harsh. I appreciate what you're saying. Can you just a little softer? And because it's hard, it hurts I'm having a heart attack every time you lash out at me, Maybe do it in a light way. Just the art of communication. Just try different techniques and find out which one works. Have fun with it. Thank you. But into the relationships that we develop is very, let's say, incredibly important, and it's the basis of our spiritual development. How we deal with each other. It registers with Krishna, and you can't get to Krishna unless if you at least make a good attempt to get on well with each other as devotees. And it's like, we're all different people, we're all different personalities here. It's like being in a forest. Oh, there's an oak tree, there's a maple tree, there's a pawpaw fruit tree. There's this, it's all colorful, it's so lively because of the differentiation. So value the diversity, and the oneness, where the oneness comes in is it's all being done for Krishna after all. That's where the oneness factor sets in. So you've all heard Achincha Beta Beta Tattva. That simply means oneness and difference. Oneness and diversity. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, sure.